So, question now, we come back to which way will the player choose to go? And the answer is that, or at least to begin with right here, the answer is that they weigh their risks and their potential rewards. And then they choose the way that seems the most profitable. And this will also often lead them in directions away from their eventual goal, possibly getting them lost or disoriented. But this is a hard thing to manage because, as a designer, each player is an individual, and because of that, they each have their different desires and the way they may enjoy different types of rewards in games differently. And each player sort of has different ways they weight each reward and risk. So, it depends on the context too. Many rewards, such as aesthetic beauty, for instance, is not something that you might care about in the heat of combat. So you aren't that reward isn't really rewarding for you if you're getting shot at. So it really depends on the type of level setup you're creating. And these lists that I'm showing right here, they're not definitive. They're hardly definitive. I'm sure that you could think of other possible risks and rewards, but I'm really trying to sort of show you what there is out there, what the possibilities here. But this is why playtesting, and specifically playtesting a diverse audience, is really essential to creating good levels. And it's really only through learning to see your levels through the eyes of complete strangers can you create great levels. So this is a still from Uncharted 4. What do these shapes communicate to you? Where would you choose here to go first? Would you go up this path right here? That seems like it might get you to your eventual goal. You have these spaces right here. Maybe there's a reward in there. Let's take a look at some simple examples. So here is a path. There's basically two paths right here. There's a path here on the left. There's a path here on the right. The path here on the left, maybe you can't quite see all of it. There's maybe some space behind this, maybe space right here. Over here, there's quite a lot of depth. So essentially what you have is the space on the left is more shallow. There's less time investment for exploring it, and I would guess that most players would probably go and explore this first, and then go explore here. So how does this compare to this? Guess we'll go back and then forth. So here I can see almost the entirety of the path here on the left compared to the previous space. This feels a little bit more hidden, more like there is something here. Depending on how much I really want the rewards that are possible in this space, I might be willing to accept the risk of not going that way. Maybe I decide the cost of checking it is too high. I couldn't really be bothered. Maybe it's a waste of my time, and I see sort of this space as more rewarding. So in that case, I may not check that out at all. What about this though? So this, compared to this, by just adding this doorway, essentially what I've done here is hide the path to the left a little bit more. That's definitely true. But I've also implied a sense of reward here. So rewards are generally not left out in open spaces. You don't just kind of leave your treasures where everyone can find them. People enclose them. They protect them. They build structures around them. So someone in this game world built this doorway to protect something, and because of it, it creates more of a sense of promise here. So in addition to, there could be more here that I'm not seeing, but there's definitely more sense of reward here than this other space. Excuse me. So I'm sort of getting to how we use shapes to communicate reward and risk. In this case right here, it feels like going here to the right will take me into a brand new space. As you can see, sort of this is a different color. That's at least what I'm trying to communicate here. this space right here seems like it's a continuation of the space that I'm in. So meaning that if I choose to go right, I may not be coming back to my current space. And so by going right, I may get a reward of feeling like I am progressing, but I'm also risking the lost reward that could be over here. So yeah, let's look at this one. So here there is less cost in skill by going to the left. Going here to the right, looks like there's some platform jumping, and maybe this is a bottomless pit. So getting over into this space is going to be harder. So maybe that means that I'm going to go into this space first. I may very well do that. But what's interesting here is that I'm kind of tempted by this space on the back behind this challenge right here, and that's because there's a challenge and there's a promise of reward behind it. So here's kind of the rub, is that the more that a player invests in a particular path, the more they expect as a reward. So this doesn't really have a counterpart in real life, for instance. In real life, you can attempt something that is very difficult, and you may very well not get anything back for it. But in a game, things are a little bit different. Rewards are gained for overcoming challenges, and that's almost kind of a hidden contract between the player and the designer. So that kind of complicates things, I think. So check out the situation. We've got 3 treasure boxes here. So I called investment, I also called it, another word for it was risk, and that's really important. So imagine we've got these 3 chests here. Now, if you know, based on how you've been playing my game, that I dole out rewards, based on how I dole out rewards in the game, you may believe, because every chest you find has a treasure, you may believe that all these chests have treasure. And if that's the case, if you believe all these chests have treasure in them, then opening them is just busy work. Why didn't I just give you one chest that had all the treasure in it? Here I'm like, well, okay, I'll get this one, then I'll get this one, then I'll get this one. But imagine instead if you knew that these chests, out of the 3 of them, only one of them had treasure. You're used in my game to finding chests, and some of them are empty. Some of them maybe attack you. They're some sort of a monster that are mimicking a treasure. Now, as you try to open them, there's a risk for opening the wrong one, and that's that's what's fun. You're risking and rewarding. You are making choices, and there's consequence to them. And you feel, when you make the right choice, you feel smart for it. You feel a sense of reward. So you're risking, and when you find the treasure in one of the here when you finally find the treasure, you'll be surprised. And that's what's really important about having sort of fruitless dead ends. Yeah, it sucks to get into a dead end, but it's important to have that risk. Otherwise, the path seems meaningless. It seems, or it's not fun. But this is kind of a bit of a balancing act. So the trouble is that, as I said before, it's like the more that you invest, the more you feel like you've earned a reward. So in a case like this, the risk for opening each of these chests is not the same. Here, there's one right here, and it looks like it's pretty easy. There, it's farther away. It takes a little bit more time to get there. Not a whole lot, but there could be a trap lurking there that you're not seeing. Over here, maybe there's a difficult platform jump to be able to get there. What if only one of these chests had a treasure in it? Would you feel disappointed as a player if this one had the treasure and these 2 didn't? So essentially, this is something that you sort of have to figure out, sort of the ebb and flow of your game. Anyway, but that is essentially risk and reward in games. Now I want to talk about something a little bit different. Can and can't. What can the player do? What can the player not do? So, actually, in week one, I touched very briefly on the concept of game language, essentially how environment speaks to the player, speaks from the designer to the player in shapes, much in the way that we sort of speak in words, and gave this sort of as an example and talked about sort of game grammar, essentially nouns, verbs, adverbs, adjectives, that sort of thing. The player sneaks slowly across the overgrown yard, jumps over the narrow gap, and quietly takes cover behind a woodpile. What is this sort of saying to me? As a player, I'm seeing a yard and it's overgrown. What does that mean to me as a player? Is this a stealth game where there's grass that I can hide in? So that's what the overgrown gets me. Jump over a narrow gap. Is this a hole in the ground that I could also hide in, or is it a bottomless pit? I can jump over this. Can I jump over a wide gap? How narrow is it that I can jump as far as gaps go? Quietly, what kind of verbs do I have at my disposal in order to do something that's quiet? And takes cover behind the woodpile. The woodpile is something that occludes vision, so enemies can't see me through it. Maybe this is a cover-based shooter like Uncharted or Gears of War, where I snap into cover, and so these are very specifically created with gameplay in mind. So, and cover is another verb at my disposal, essentially, that I'm put an includer between myself and the enemy. So,